Hello and welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a great lunch break. We will continue the German Select Conference with the eighth presentation of the day. And I welcome SGL Carbon, Claudia Kellert, who is head of IR Communications and Corporate Sustainability, will talk us through the investment case and, of course, answer your questions. Like always, please use the chat box on the lower right-hand corner for questions that you might have. We will, like always, record this presentation and you will be able to access it a little later today on Research Hub. And with that all being said, Claudia, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks a lot. A very warm welcome from SGL side as well. So, due to the fact I'm not really sure how familiar you are with our business model, I will give you a short overview what SGL is doing. So overall, we are experts for products and solutions based on carbon and graphite. What does that mean? So we have got two value chains. The one is the graphite one. Here, the raw materials are a little bit different to the carbon value chain. Our largest business unit is so-called Graphite Solutions. Here is the name program. Here we produce tailor-made and very individual products and solution based on synthetic graphite. This is important. This is not natural graphite from mines. This is a synthetic graphite manufactured in a chemical process. Here, our main market is the semiconductor industry. Yeah, we are not manufacturing semiconductors, but you need graphite for the high temperature process of the crystal growth process for semiconductor wafers. So very interesting high-tech market. The other smaller part of our graphite value chain is our business unit process technology. Here we use our know-how and the engineering competence to produce, or it's more engineering process of very individual equipment, especially for the chemical industry. The other value chain is our carbon value chain. Here we use raw material, it's called acrylonitrile, for the production of textile and carbon fibers. I will explain a little bit later why this business unit is in a restructuring process at the moment and why we discontinue the production of our own carbon fiber. The composite solution business unit is comparable to process tech. Here we use also the knowledge about the handling of textile composite materials to produce especially composite components for the automotive industry. For example, battery cases or leaf springs. You use leaf springs, for example, for very heavy cars, and battery cases. I think it's very clear, especially for electro mobility vehicles. So this is a short overview about our business units and products. Only to give you a short overview about the size of our company. So last year, we were able to generate roughly 1 billion euro sales and an EBITDA pre of roughly 163 million euros. This leads to an EBITDA margin of 15.9%. So to give you more insights about the business units, I explained Graphite Solutions, the largest business unit, very attractive margins, especially due to our business with semiconductor customers. We are one of a handful companies in the world, um, which is able to produce synthetic graphites with a very, very high purity, about over 90.9%. And this is necessary for these high temperature process to grow the crystal for the wafers. Another important part of our business is all around industrial applications, and it's difficult to answer which sector or which industry. You use graphite for high temperature processes, and this is the special characteristics of graphite. Um, you can use graphite components for temperature processes over 2000 degrees. Steel is not possible, aluminum is not possible. So the only material which is able to handle these high temperatures is graphite. So the variety of our applications is really, really large, so that we can supply in a lot of different industries. So what I mentioned before, process tech is a little bit smaller, also graphite based. Especially here we produce really large components and whole columns for the chemical industry. Nearly 100% of our customers are coming from the chemical industry. Carbon fibers. This is where SGL Carbon was known for in, I think, the last 20 years. And the dream was that carbon fibers as a lightweight material is usable for the automotive industry, that most of the car bodies are made out of carbon fibers. This dream never fulfilled due to the fact the production of carbon fiber is so expensive. It's a fantastic material, it's stable, but also flexible. It's really light, but for the automotive industry, too expensive. So we try to find other markets where large carbon fiber volumes are needed and used. And this was the wind industry, especially the offshore wind industry, where carbon fiber is used to stabilize the rotor blades. Everybody knows that the offshore wind industry is struggling since years, so that the demand for carbon fibers decreased over the last year. On the other side, Asian countries and companies build huge manufacturing capacities for carbon fibers. So at the moment, the price level is so low, and not only at the moment, it's since the last 2 to 3 years, that we in Europe and SGL Carbon were the last carbon fiber manufacturer in Europe. We decided to restructure the whole carbon fiber business unit and to focus on our profitable core businesses. So we discontinue our whole carbon fiber production. We close our site in Lavradio in Portugal, and we shut down the production in our US site in Moses Lake. Due to this, we were able to turn around the whole business unit. In the last year, carbon fiber made a loss of roughly 11 million EBITDA pre. Now in the first half 25, we were able to generate 5.2 million euros positive EBITDA pre due to the closure of these loss-making business activities. composite solutions here, most of our customers are coming from the automotive industry, and you know that the automotive industry is struggling, especially in the western parts as well. So here we see weaker demand in the last months and expect weaker demand from our automotive customers in the upcoming months as well. So a difficult situation, especially for our business units more related to the automotive industry. I don't want to take too much time on the numbers. So you see what I mentioned before, due to our dependency on automotive industry and semiconductor industry, especially for silicon carbide semiconductors, sales and EBITDA pre decreased in the first half of 2025. If I take a look to the margin, here we see um, a EBITDA pre-margin comparable on the level of last year. Don't want to take too much time. Yeah, this is interesting. So we have, it's not a business unit, it's a joint venture. And it's a 50-50 joint venture with the Italian brake manufacturer Brembo. Here we produce ceramic brake disc for sports cars, luxury cars, or very, very heavy cars. This is a very, very successful joint venture. We deliver the know-how how to handle carbon and ceramics, so high temperature processes. And Brembo is the partner for the brake systems. This is part of the carbon fiber business unit, and we consolidate our 50-50 joint venture at equity. So you see only the positive result of the joint venture. And if you take a look to the last years, the gray part is the result of the joint venture, which is included in the EBITDA pre of the carbon fiber business unit. Due to the success of the joint venture and that we are in this application, yeah, nearly a monopolist, we decided to increase and to expand our production capacities in Germany, and our Meitingen site is in the south of Germany, and in Stiziano at the headquarter of, of Brembo to fulfill the demand, especially of the luxury car manufacturers. I talked a lot about the semiconductor business, and this is our cherry on the cake, to be honest. As I mentioned before, SGL Carbon is one of, let's say, 4 or 5 manufacturers of synthetic graphite, which is able to produce these special graphite components for the SiC, so the silicon carbide semiconductor industry. Silicon carbide semiconductors are used for electronic vehicles. You can charge faster, the driving distance is longer. There are the advantage in comparison to normal silicon semiconductors, the better performance. In 2024 and at the end of 23, there was a hype for these silicon carbide semiconductors due to the fact everybody expected that the growth rates of electric vehicles will be roughly more than 30% CAGR in the next 5 to 6 years. What we learned starting mid of 2024 is that the expected growth rates for electric vehicle sales are lower than all the experts expected. So what we saw in the last month is a really high inventory level at our customer side, so that the demands for our products, these synthetic graphite components, decreased in the last months. In the last weeks, we saw slightly destocking at our customer level, so that we expect that demand will increase at the end of 25, beginning of 26, due to the fact the whole SiC semiconductor market is absolutely intact. Everybody knows e-vehicles are the future of the automotive industry in the eastern and the western parts of the world. The adoption rate of SiC semiconductors per vehicle will increase due to the fact longer driving distances, faster charging. So overall, we expect a recovery of the silicon carbide semiconductor market. This is what I mentioned before. We saw a steadily increase in 2023, then a really drop in the first quarter of 24. And so it's typical that the first quarter dropped a little bit, but not 38 or 23%. So our calculation, and based on the experts' research, is that the difference between, let's say, the old expectations from 22, 23 and today, there's a gap of 2.6 million electric vehicles per quarter. So we need roughly 1.5, 2 years to reach the former expectations. Coming back to carbon fibers. The restructuring was necessary due to the fact that the whole business unit was loss-making, that the market expectations never fulfilled, that carbon fiber will be the lightweight material for automotive. On the other side, we saw these overcapacities coming from Asia with the low price levels. So this was a hard decision for SGL Carbon, that we completely step out our own carbon fiber business. We close our sites, and now we, to be honest, buy carbon fiber, which we use in the composite solution business unit, from Asian former competitors, to be honest. But it was necessary to turn the business unit into a profitable business. After Q1, the H1 figures, we said, due to the restructuring of the carbon fiber business and the development of the last months in our semiconductor business, we said we have to decrease a little bit our sales expectations. But due to the success of the restructuring and the cost savings, we are able to stick to our EBITDA pre-guidance of 130 to 150 million euros for the whole fiscal year 2025. So our results expectations are unchanged. So what we expect for the next months. So we expect that our customers will lower their inventory levels for graphite components, and that the demand will increase end of the year, beginning 25. We see that BEV sales increased in the last month, and that the adoption rate per vehicle also increase. The carbon fiber demand is low at the moment, so we feel confirmed to discontinue our carbon fiber business. Globally, we are not so affected by the tariffs due to the fact we have our own production network in US, but overall, trade barriers and global tariffs weigh on our business due to the fact we are part of the global economy. Our countermeasures are the restructuring of carbon fibers. We reduce our whole cost base in the entire SGL organization, inclusive personal adjustments. We think about our capex due to the fact one of our targets is to be cash positive in the whole fiscal year 25, like in the last years. So our capex spendings are in line with our market expectations, our key market expectations. And what I mentioned before, we focus on a positive free cash flow. And if you take a look to our balance sheets with a leverage ratio of 0.8, we have a really, really strong balance sheet. The future, from our perspective, we stick to our SiC business. We see the SiC semiconductor market on track, maybe with a slight postponement of 1.5, 2 years, but expect that demand will increase, what I mentioned before. So a lot of investors ask, hey, you discontinue, you close down your carbon fiber business unit, which is necessary or was necessary, but what are your future products and applications? So we are working on this at the moment with the new CEO, but we have a lot of opportunities, especially in the digitalization business. Only want to mention AI applications in alternative energies, nuclear as well, and with our knowledge about composite materials also in the defense industry. So this was a really, really short overview about SGL, and I think, oh, you have a lot of questions.
We do have a lot of questions, and let me maybe begin with one that is very specific, and due to the amount of questions, we're going to go through them more or less chronologically. First question, very specific, single layer graphene, if you are exposed to that area, and if so, how relevant this is going to be from your corporate's perspective.
No, single layer graphene. Difficult question to be honest. We have so many solutions and applications, but at the moment it's not a relevant business segment from our perspective.
All right. Talking about the US, you've mentioned the closure of sites in the US. Can you be a little more specific as to which ones you are going to close? And question that follows up on that is regarding the tariff struggles between the US and China. Do you think that it might be too early to actually close something there, as local production and reindustrialization in the US seems to be the name of the game?
So we only close the production in one of our 6 sites. This is the Moses Lake site, and this is due to our manufacturing structure. So to manufacture a carbon fiber, you use a so-called precursor. It's a very complicated chemical process. This precursor was manufactured at our site in Portugal. We ship these precursor to Moses Lake for the final manufacturing process. So due to the fact that we decide completely discontinue our carbon fiber business. It doesn't make sense to close one site in Portugal and to have the production in the US. What I mentioned before, we're the last carbon fiber manufacturer in Europe and in US as well. We will supply our carbon fiber from a Japanese company in the future, so that we stick to our remaining 5 sites in US, but these are graphite solutions and a process technology site, so more for the graphite solution channel. Tariffs, yes, we are affected, but not in these dimension than a lot of our competitors, due to the fact we have our own production network.
Thank you. Looking at the shareholder ownership, you have Frau von Klatten in there. You do have 2 automobile companies, I think, that own quite a chunk of shares in your company. Can you illustrate a little bit on that, i.e. what the strategic viewpoint on that is, if that is maybe going to change considering the environment overall?
So, and I think a lot of investors know this. So, Skion, so this is the family office of Susanne Klatten. BMW and Volkswagen step into the company in the 28, 29, 2010, due to the fact that they also thought that carbon fiber will be the automotive material of the future. So this was really clear strategic investment. From our company perspective, to be honest, especially for BMW and Volkswagen, we don't know the strategic approach of both at the moment. Skion is the family office is switched a little bit to more sustainable participations or investments. So we don't know exactly the strategic approach as well. So we don't know if things will be changed. You have to ask the anchor investors, to be honest. We are only the company.
Gotcha. Looking at the cost front, one question was related to the recruitment of personnel. If there are any bottlenecks that you see, if that could potentially be a strain on the cost situation of SGL, if you could maybe give us some flavor on that.
To be honest, recruiting is not the problem at the moment, especially if you take a look to the whole automotive industry. So, from our perspective, it's an advantage if you are experienced in automotive industry. Due to the layoffs in automotive, is no problem from our perspective to find new specialists and colleagues. But to be honest, at the moment, we are also in a personnel reduction process. Yeah, if you close 2 sites with more than 250 colleagues, you have to reduce the administrative structure as well. So no problem and no issues in recruiting.
All right. Last question that we have time for, and we got about a minute for that. As of today, ongoing restructuring in carbon fiber and the expected recovery in semi, do you see a fair chance of earnings turnaround in 2026?
Keep fingers crossed. Sorry, yeah. So we only give a guidance, or have given a guidance for 25. We have no midterm structure due to the restructuring of carbon fiber at the moment, especially due to all these global uncertainties. It's difficult to give a midterm guidance, but from our perspective, our underlying markets, semiconductor, especially SiC, is on track, and it's a future market. Graphite is used also in other future markets. Also, to be honest, in alternative energies, like nuclear out of Europe, or special applications for the defense industry. Have in mind, that carbon fiber is a really light material and also used in the defense industry as well.
All right. Thank you so much. It is 2:30, so we're right on time. I appreciate your time, Claudia, and the insights that you've shared with us. I appreciate all being here and listening to this interesting presentation. And of course, thank you for your questions. We'll continue with Voslo, and I just posted the link in the chat box. So enjoy. If you want to stay online for a sec, Claudia, then we can just...
Thank you for your participation, and give me a call, send me an email if you have additional questions. Thanks a lot.